There once was a boy named Charles Darwin who was born into a wealthy family in England. His father was a doctor and his grandfather before him. Darwin was expected to do great things. He went to Edinburgh University to become a doctor just like his father and grandfather had, but blood made him squeamish, so that did not work out. Then he went to Cambridge University to study theology, become a minister. But he was always more drawn to nature and hunting and things like that. Darwin's father did not approve of his naturalist ways and sent him a letter telling him that he would be traveling around the world on the HMS Beagle. Darwin's job on this naval vessel was to collect notes on the nature that existed in all the places that they went. Some of the best notes were written on this vessel: finches, iguanas, tortoises. Darwin noticed a couple things about the animals. There is variation in the populations, and also that more offspring were being produced than could survive. Darwin called this natural selection. With help, especially from scientists looking at heritable traits, natural selection was further defined. Natural selection occurs in a population when there is variation in that population. Some of that variation can be inherited, and variation causes differential fitness within the population. Differential fitness means that variation provides advantages to some organisms which will live longer and have more babies. A great example of natural selection occurring in a population was in 1959, studied by Kettlewell, a physician, that looked at the peppered moth. The peppered moth was generally found in the Typica form. This form blends in with trees in the habitat, hiding from the birds that eat them off of those trees. This was a generally good strategy for their survival. When birds are looking for something to eat, they see the black ones and they do not see the white ones on the lighter background. However, the mutation that caused a darker colorization became an advantage after the industrialization of the habitat around the trees. The trees turned black with soot, and the black ones had an advantage over the white moths. The white moths were way more visible to the birds. Due to the increased survival of the darker moths, they were given their own term, Carbonera. The Carbonera moths lived on the soot, and the Typica moths lived on the unindustrialized areas where the trees were much lighter. There was variation in the population with different colored moths, one lighter and one darker. This coloration was heritable, and so it could be passed on generation to generation. The variation did cause differential fitness, because if you blend in, then you don't get eaten. If you don't get eaten, then you live longer and have more babies, and those babies will look like you. Therefore, Kettlewell saw natural selection in action. I hope this helps you think about why animals are the way they are, what colors they are, what shapes they are, what size they are, and why they are all so different. They each need to survive. When looking at an organism, always think, how does this help it survive?